it kind of naturally, but if you want to just kind of introduce yourself in the chat, we're going to be using the chat for a first little icebreaker. If we have a small enough group, we may be able to do it as with people unmuting themselves. But if you say kind of what college you're from and even what role you play at the college, that would be fantastic.
My name is Nedra Wheeler. I'm from Los Angeles Southwest College. I teach Music Appreciation 111 in the Arts and Humanities Department.
Oh, great.
Good morning. My name is Deborah Taylor, and I'm from De Anza Community College in Cupertino, California, and I'm the recruiter for the nursing program.
Thank you.
Hey.
And good morning, everyone. My name is Erica Olmos. I am from sunny San Diego, Grossmont College in East County, and I am the Career Services and Internship Program Coordinator.
Great.
Everyone, I'm Cindy Sanchez. I'm one of the Guided Pathways Regional Coordinator from the Foundation for California Community Colleges, and I represent some of our colleges in the North State.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Karen Engelson, Vice President of Student Services at Victor Valley College, and it's good to be with you all this morning.
Thank you.
I'm Rebecca Stein from Los Angeles Valley College, and I'm our Guided Pathways Coordinator and Anthropology faculty.
Thank you.
Good morning, everybody. My name is Ana Ortega Nieto. I'm in the North State at Butte College, and I'm a counselor at Butte College. Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning. I like that backdrop.
Hi, I'm Lizzie Brock, and I am a colleague of Michelle's. I'm also an English teacher at City College of San Francisco, and I coordinate our professional embedded tutoring program.
Good morning. A lot of people are saying good morning in the chat, which is great too. It's nice to hear people's voices and see your faces. Good morning. My name is Michelle Simotis. I'm English faculty at City College of San Francisco, and I'm the Guided Pathways Coordinator there. And then I am also here representing Career Ladders Project to support our wonderful presenters from Pasadena City College and UCLA. So I will go ahead and get started. Today we're going to be talking about a project that has been ongoing for several years that involves a partnership between UCLA and Cecilia Rios-Aguilar and her team of researchers and Pasadena City College. And it's kind of this neat collaboration that they have going on that's developed a lot of insight into the student experience, particularly on kind of their decision making and their career trajectory. So we are coming to you today from, sorry, my slides are not moving, from Career Ladders Project. So Career Ladders Project is a nonprofit organization that's funded through the Foundation for California Community Colleges. We collaborate with colleges and partners around the state of California and also some partnerships nationally to support effective practices, specifically practices that work to close equity gaps. Their work involves kind of policy work as well as research and then direct support to colleges. So that's kind of who's bringing you this event this Friday as well as last Friday. So here are the outcomes for the workshop in general. So this is a two-part series. We had one part last Friday with a panel and some breakout sessions, which we will make available on the website. And Cecilia, as well as some other folks that were really inspirational, were on that panel. So this is kind of the second part of this career workshop. And these are our outcomes. We want to explore key considerations for preparing students to work in our changing economy. We want to really kind of look at ways that we can break through racial and gender disparities in program and career choice. And then we really want to learn what colleges can and are doing to disrupt the structural disparities in program and career choice that we know kind of happen naturally, but also feed into the same disparities in the workplace and in career fields. Our presenters today are Sheila Rose from PCC, Myriam Altounji, I'm gonna mispronounce your name, I'm sorry, Myriam. Myriam Altounji, is that how you say your last name?
Yes, thanks.
Okay, thank you, sorry about that. And Cecilia Rios-Aguilar. We are going to hear from them in just a moment. I'd like to start with just kind of centering us all on our why for working in community colleges. So I wonder if in the chat you could say in 1 or 2 words what brought you to work in community colleges, or what is your why for continuing to work in community colleges? So we have one response, my experience as a community college student, the students, working with students. Yay, we're all student-centered. My why are the students. Land of second chances, I love that. Former community college student wanting to give back. We can make meaningful changes in the lives of students and their families. Love promoting nursing education. That's awesome. Learning about the ever-changing world of work for students and community. Helping students figure out what they want to do with their lives. Support students in realizing their dreams. The wide array of students served and the ability to deliver so much in terms of instruction and services. The opportunities to open doors. It's nice to see that we're all kind of centered around, you know, the why of wanting to serve, wanting to help students to kind of have a stepping stone into their dreams. Ana Ortega Nieto says it's personal. As a former community college student, I want to be that support to students. Access and achieving goals in education is social justice. Elevating our community through quality education and empowerment for all. Wonderful, thank you for that. All right, with that, I am going to hand it over to Dr. Cecilia Rios-Aguilar to share with us some of the things she's learned in her work.
Good morning, everybody. Are you ready? You want to shake your bodies first and get your chairs comfy. For those of you who need it, we spend so much time on these screens lately that I've been like trying to think how to make it less rigid and less boring. So please, by all means, use the chat to stop us, to make sure that we make this opportunity as participatory as possible. It's just 4 of us, so I think it's a nice small group so that you guys can unmute yourself. Please stop us any point in time. I just wanted to provide you some context before we start, but one thing I do want to say is that this work is collaborative work. I don't think one person can really say or take credit for taking this, and this is being sustained, ongoing work. And like many of you have heard, it takes a village, right? It takes a village to support our students. And this process has been with us for 3 or 4 years almost. We're, I think, going to start our 4th year, which is remarkable. Sometimes people ask me how to describe this work that I do with community college, and I say I have little marriages, you know. Some last longer than others. This one is going on its 4th year, so it's pretty cool. So I brought my partner so that they can also have their perspective and share with us today. But the first thing I want us to think about is this new. People ask me sometimes, I'm by training an economist and I've always been interested in labor market stuff. But recently some people have been asking me almost like to predict what jobs, because they know I do research on community colleges and labor. What are going to be the next like best jobs? I'm like, I have no idea. I don't have a magic ball. But what I think we need to do is definitely start asking ourselves and our students different questions. I have little kids, and for those of you who are parents, we start very young. What do you want to be when you grow up? I'm not going to even share with you what my son recently told me, because I think he understood. He's 4 and he understood something very different. I just learned today what he understood when I asked that. He thinks is Halloween, like who you want to be when you're in Halloween dressed up, because his answer was pretty interesting when I asked him that. But the same, I think, happens with our students. We keep asking them, what major, what do you want to be when you grow up? And I'm not a labor market specialist, and I do not know the jobs for the future and the demand. And that's why there's numbers and there's techniques to try to learn that. But what I do know is that the labor market is changing drastically in ways that we barely even understand. So what I try to do for myself is that instead of asking this, what do you want to be? What is your major? What do you do? Is ask why. Why do you want to come here? Why do you want to help others? I talk to a lot of students that tell me, I want to help others. Well, why? Why is it coming from? Who are you talking to about these things? I think those are very important things we need to keep in mind. Just look at these statistics. 65% of students will work in jobs that don't even exist yet. So that's why even if we try to predict, we would fail miserably because they don't exist right now. Though 47% of those jobs will be automated. There's new research that says that only 27% of students actually start their first job in the major that they graduated with. So there's a very weak, that just means there's a very weak link between your major and your first job where you land. Again, because the job market is changing drastically. And students is predicted that they'll have 17 jobs in 5 industries over their career trajectory nowadays. So as you can see, things are changing drastically right in front of us. Students know it, they feel it. I've been talking a lot with students for the past years too, because this work requires us to talk to a lot of them. But I wanted to center these new contexts. And again, I think the goal for us at PCC is to develop toolkits for all of us at the institution. And what we mean is a set of different questions that we should be asking ourselves in whatever role we occupy. I see people are faculty, student services, counselors. We need to equip ourselves with different tools, different questions that we should be asking ourselves and students every encounter we have with them, right? Every chance we have a chance to talk to them about their goals, we should be asking them very different things and sharing very different things. And hopefully this will become clearer. I'll answer that question about what my son wanted to be when he grew up at the end. I promise. I don't want to leave people with a hint, okay? We can turn to the next one. And I'm going to turn it to Sheila so that she can help us with the next part.
Hi, this is Karen.
Thank you, Cecilia. So good to see everyone this morning. So in my role as an ESL instructor at Pasadena City College for over 20 years, one of the hardest things for me when I decided to not exclusively be a classroom teacher was losing the relationship and the intimacy of the classroom. And so one of the things that's been most wonderful for me about the partnership is that we have access to these amazing PhD students that Cecilia oversees, who have the opportunity to interview our students as part of their doctoral research. And so between the fabulous Dr. Natasha Cesar Davis and Dr. Rebecca Colina Neri, we have approximately 150 interviews of our students that we have access to inform our work. And so I'd like to share with you today 2 snippets from those interviews of PCC students. And if I could have a volunteer to read the first one, which is on the screen right now.
I can go ahead.
Thank you.
I think faculty members, they can help a lot by sitting down with students and going through the whole process with the students. Like me, they could help me with, okay, your classes then, maybe if you wanted to volunteer at this hospital, they can help you with that. And then just learning more about what you really want to do and if that's your career.
Thank you. And then we have one more on the next slide, please. Thank you. And do we have another volunteer?
I can volunteer.
Thank you.
You're welcome. When I was working, I just craved for more knowledge. I wanted to be more competent in my skills and be unique and not really a replaceable labor worker. So that's what made me come back to school. A lot of people say cliche stuff like, oh, you need to get your education. If you get this degree, you're going to get a good job and you're going to make decent money so you can live a stable life. Then I heard ever since I was a kid, but I realized that I felt like an easily replaceable worker, which I hated. And I was working really hard to be competent at my job so that I'll be outstanding. I need to ensure my place and make sure that I have job stability.
Okay, so I think that these 2 quotes really remind us of the kind of audacious goals that our students have, right? And how they're entrusting us to help them achieve them. And so I really do encourage everyone to really listen to your students as you're planning the career supports for them. Thank you.
So one of the most powerful things, as Sheila says, is that we always use data and bring it back to our groups and our discussion so that we can talk to each other. So we have these, what I call, we call it the DIG, the Data Inquiry Group, but it's really more like a study group where we bring these voices of students, but also institutional data. Today, we just wanted to present you more with the voices because they help us center these conversations of how our students are sensing the job market. They're living it. This idea of not being a replaceable worker is something that really stuck with me because they're very savvy. They know things are changing very fast. They're living it as opposed to imagining it or thinking too much about it. And again, these are conversations that I think we need to be having with each other, among ourselves, and with our students. So what have we learned from a lot of the research that Sheila has mentioned? I have a lot of students working on dissertations and doing interviews and also quantitative analysis, not just that, but I think I just wanted to point some of these. Access to labor market knowledge, but also know-how. We did a quick labor market questionnaire to our students. And they keep telling us that the same typical jobs are those that are highest paid salary. Medical, professors, and I don't remember which was the technicians. They come up with these ideas as to who makes most money. And also they were avid to know, how do you get there? Tell me the know-how, make it visible for me. Because guess what? I've been feeling discriminated. I feel like an irreplaceable worker. I feel that they can dispose of me. I feel jobs come and go pretty fast. So give me the know-how, not just tell me there's this job growth in these fields. They can find that information. Some of them, I will never forget one of these students who tell me, look, if I'm just gonna go Google information with a counselor, I can Google by myself. Right? Is that conversation, that engagement of what does this mean for me, for my context, in my context? And sometimes, again, it's not that we have to be the labor market experts, but we can talk about failure. We can talk about our paths. We can talk about how long it took us to get where we are, the types of questions we had to ask. Some of us do bring that cultural capital that we hear, right? Students don't have it sometimes. Right? But they have that lived experience. of what they're actually going through with their jobs. They need differentiated career guidance and exploration. We keep asking ourselves at PCC, how are students exploring? One strategy that we found that was very common was just telling students, oh, take this class and take that other class. And we keep asking ourselves, is that the only way students are exploring in our colleges? Should we be doing other stuff? And the conclusion has been like, yes, we should be doing much more for them to explore rather than just telling them, oh, go take a class on this or that, right? They also want opportunities to, the career guidance that needs to be in the classroom and is contextualized in disciplinary learning. Opportunities to explore and cultivate their sociopolitical development across career fields. This was a very important one. Again, I go back to that example of I want to help others. Some of you here in the chat were telling us your why. Your why is because you wanted to open these opportunities to others. And that comes in our data a lot, especially for low-income students of color. They want to help their communities. They want to give back, but they don't know what does that look like in a field like coding, in a field like engineering, and there's soft fields, and we need even to open up those to start talking more about very specific occupations within that, because we're talking about fields, but what can you do with that? Let's make it tangible, much more concrete for students so they can start making sense of that information and what that means for them in their own context, whether they're in Beauty County, whether they're in San Diego, whether they're in PCC. That needs to be very contextualized as well. They need also emotional and psychological support to navigate the stress, anxiety, and uncertainty that this process means to them. They know these are high stakes because we made it very high stakes, right? So they know the consequences that this can have, but they have this very narrow, again, you get a college because you want a good job and a stable life. I call that the Cinderella story. And when you don't get that job, it's not working anymore. Next slide. I'm going to get Myriam then to join and see if she wants to say something, or it is still mine, right?
Myriam, can you speak to this?
Yeah, so in our work with UCLA, we've been talking through how to operationalize the data in a way that's supportive of our students as we learn more and more about their career journeys. And so we have been working most recently on what does the onboarding process look like for students who are entering PCC. So we've engaged in this journey mapping process where we're thinking through what are students' touch points with the college as they, from the point of application, even before application, who do they talk to, who do they engage with, where are we leveraging those touch points to infuse career exploration or to affirm the strengths that they're coming in with, to help them understand how they belong at the college and how we can work together in partnership with them. And so that work has really engaged us in looking at our processes. Like students engage, like when they're entering the college, are working through applications and orientations and filling out paperwork and hitting barriers. And so using those and understanding that whole journey helps us to tailor that approach for students to make it a little bit more responsive to the things that we're learning in the data that we're collecting. So at the beginning, we looked at our own data. It was great. It's helping us to understand too what's happening in the classroom and how that can impact and influence students, as well as what student services is doing, and uniquely for our college. And so it's been really great to have these conversations in these shared spaces with a diverse group of folks in a room through the dig. And without the research that the UCLA team has been bringing to us, we wouldn't be able to necessarily dig into our data in a way that's really focused on the career journey for our students specifically.
Thank you, Myriam. Sheila, do you want to add something maybe?
I think that I'm going to address it with that next slide and kind of
Okay.
get in a little bit deeper to what Myriam introduced.
I just probably want to maybe end by saying that we bring to them different types of exercises. Me and my team come together and say, okay, we did this journey map in particular that we're doing right now. But in the past, we've done a lot of exercises, again, organizational exercises to sit down with us to say, what's a priority? Where are spaces? What's the problem? Even first, we work, I think, a whole year and identifying what's the main problem that students at PCC face. And students were at the table and they describe it with their own words. I remember it so clearly, and it was so helpful that with their language, we were able to craft a problem statement for the institution that we could then share across and say, this is why we need to be here, because this is the problem that we're not addressing. And there was this very student-centered approach to getting us together. Can you go to the next slide, please? Oh, sorry. And I think it's important, and that's why we chose to call this workshop identity and asset-based frameworks, because those are what they inform the exercises and the discussions we have about who the students interact with, what are the structures, what are the processes that they, and then to develop ultimately those toolkits. So you see a lot of arrows here and there that, you know, we're doing this journey map exercise. We'll identify who they're talking to and what processes they're getting stuck. And then with the goal of retoolkitting ourselves to break some of that. But again, I want to emphasize that the top part of the diagram shows that if we don't inform these conversations on racial identity and asset-based frameworks, our chances of success are very low. The other way in which we infuse this is because our samples of the students we talk to are primarily low-income students of color. We're not just sampling widely across the college to see who we get. We're very intentional in we want to talk to those who have the least chances of succeeding at the institution. So we put all our resources on all our efforts in that. That has to be consistent with the approach, right? We said asset-based, the types of questions we ask them. We're not interviewing them with the goal of documenting what they don't know. We're interviewing them with the perspective of what is it that you guys bring? We've been advocating for these labor histories. That's part of the frameworks that we use. How many jobs have you had? There's so much richness in what they already know and have gone through, but we don't use it. We don't, because we don't ask them. We ask them about the labor market. What do you know? What do you want to know about the labor market? And that's how we develop all these. But again, and I think also we've been lately more attuned to the language that we use to describe students, our initiatives, and because it is very powerful when you start changing language and you start talking about students in a different way, that gets filtered down. And that has to do a lot with understanding that people are assets, not deficient people that need necessarily second. I believe in not second, I believe in multiple chances, not just two. I believe that people should be able to come back to us any point in time, not just once, twice. So that starts changing the way we view students. The next slide, please. There you go.
Thank you. So I wanted to dig in a little bit to to describe what the partnership looks like. So as Cecilia mentioned, we've been meeting for almost 4 years. And we've had access to the research conducted by numerous her PhD students who have all been amazing. And what makes it special is that Myriam and I and the rest of our team at PCC can request what specifically we would like for her PhD students to gather, what information about our students. And then we meet monthly to dig into the data. And so the DIG stands for Data Inquiry Group. And this is the structure that we use for our meetings. We tend to meet for about 1.5 to 2 hours each time. We look both at qualitative data, which is in the form of student interviews. And as Cecilia mentioned, we do prioritize hearing the voices of our students who have been historically underserved and who continue to experience persistent equity gaps. And in the cases when we're not able to get enough of those student voices, then her PhD students have been very thorough about going back out and recruiting additional students so that we make sure that the voices of foster youth are heard, that the voices of our African American students, even though they're a very small part of our student population, currently the voice of our disabled students, so that we can tailor the supports that we're creating and the transformation to our processes to maximize the opportunity for those students to succeed. Some of the quantitative data that we have looked at includes identifying our gatekeeper classes. So we are dedicating ourselves as a campus to doing inquiry into our curriculum and identifying the classes that are preventing our students from progressing and achieving their academic goals. In order to invest that effort into getting faculty to rewrite curriculum, we need to know where that attention needs to be paid. And because we have access to the data about what are those courses in each of our 6 career communities that are playing that gatekeeper role that could actually be a pathway. So if we can redesign that curriculum to be culturally relevant and to embed career exploration and development, then those courses have the potential to invite students into the disciplines rather than preventing them from achieving their academic goals. Because we have the kind of UCLA name, people show up. And because they have access to being a large research institution, they can support our inquiry in ways that our own research team on our campus, though they are amazing and they partner very closely with Cecilia's team, they don't have the luxury to do all of the projects that we need to be done. They're doing the work for accreditation. They're doing the work for annual updates. But by having the UCLA Education Department there and ready and needing to do dissertations, right? These PhD students have work to do, and we get to be the place where they can do it. That supports our inquiry. So I wanted to give Myriam an opportunity to talk a little bit more about that engaged inquiry.
So through the process of inquiry, when we started working with the UCLA team, the conversations, we didn't set out necessarily with, the inquiry kind of led to additional inquiry is kind of where I'm going. As we dug into the data, more questions came up, more guidance in the areas that we wanted to put our attention, kind of scaffolded over the course of the 4 years, that has led us to a place now where we're working on these journey maps and more intentionally on toolkits. Again, as the college has been implementing the guided pathways framework, that has informed some of the discussions and conversations that we've been having in our digs. And as we implement parts of that framework, the data and those conversations have helped shape what our career communities and student engagement through that has looked like. The more we learn through these digs, the sort of the beauty of this whole partnership too is that you have practitioners in the room. How often do you get to do research, data, inquiry, and be able to implement and operationalize that or try it out, you know, at the practitioner level? And the practitioners are informing the research as well. And so that's been sort of, that partnership has really helped us shape, like we've been implementing as we go and as we learn. And and in terms of cross-campus partnerships, we have managers, faculty, both full-time and part-time. We have student services professionals in the room, as well as the team from UCLA, all kind of cross communicating and thinking and engaging in the work and the data.
Thanks, Myriam. So Myriam touched on the idea of all the different folks who are in the room. I think one of the reasons why we have been able to be so successful in creating supports for students is because it is a partnership between instruction and student services that is probably a model for how you can have instructional faculty learning from student services professionals, counselors, career counselors, career center staff who are responsible for work-based learning opportunities, librarians, and as Myriam mentioned, we have included our adjunct faculty as well as our full-time faculty. We know that 2/3 of the faculty on our campus are adjunct. We are not going to achieve campus-wide transformation if they are not invited. And in our case, we stipend them to be part of the career community faculty lead team so that they can attend the career data inquiry groups and then also participate in creating opportunities for students, such as our Career Community Social Justice Conference, redesigning our website by career community in order to give students access to their success teams and network of care. So we've been able to take a lot of what we've learned and then as a campus-wide effort, create a variety of supports. But we don't want to make it look all rosy because as we know, campus-wide transformation is never easy or smooth. There are always many, many boulders to be moved aside. So some of the challenges that we face are always getting the right people in the room. So the UCLA name really helps, the quality of the research really helps to get the decision makers. So Myriam and I often take what we're learning from the career data inquiry group up to the guided pathways leadership group because they can't always be in the dig, right? They just don't have the time as vice presidents and presidents. And so how do you get them the information that's needed in order for them to be the deciders, right? And put the real weight behind the work. With so much to do, where do you start? Like, what's the priority? Is it revising curriculum? Is it building out work-based learning opportunities? Is it professional development? And professional development for who? When you have 1,200 faculty members, right? And 300 classified staff. So always trying to decide like where to start and where to put the energy and the focus. And then opportunities to share. I think that's sharing on our own campus, again, because there's just so many humans. How do you get everyone coordinated so that everyone knows what they're doing and can be invited to the work and no one feels excluded from it?
Thank you, Sheila. I think that definitely I wanted to make sure they were the ones, because if I get to talk about the partnership, I only share the beautiful things. No, I'm with you. I think over time we see flows of people, consistent people who come, but then people who get added, others that can come again. So I think it's going to be a challenge. I think no matter what, and even when COVID hit, just moving the meetings in Zoom has been also another, roadblock, I think, because we were so used to seeing each other and meeting in the rooms there and just chatting, and we all enjoy so much going there. And now, who knows how long we're going to be in this setting, but participation has gone up. So it's one of those things that we need to think, I think, post-COVID is what are we going to keep from this setting? Because in some cases, even with my own faculty at UCLA, some meetings have worked better in this context, believe it or not. Even these opportunities to connect with all of you seems to be, increasing as a possibility rather than everybody flies and budgets are not great. So I think we really need to think about how to engage with each other more. And the last idea that I've been pondering with the PCC, just to make this more career oriented and labor market oriented, is to bring a set of different folks to the conversation. There's a lot of people out there that I would like my peers from PCC to hear from. There are sociologists who've dedicated their lives to understand labor markets. I work with one in particular, David Fields at Iowa. that has done remarkable work. There's other folks who study poverty in Johns Hopkins. Right now, we have that chance to bring those folks to our conversations. For me, the conversations are critical, and I call them study groups more than digs. We come to study together. We study data, we study research, we study ourselves, we study what's going on in the world, and we try to make some sense of it and put it in practice in some ways. But I think we gotta make an effort, especially in this context, which I think will continue to be in for the foreseeable future, to maybe see who else we can bring to our conversations to hear more about the job market, about poverty issues people facing, et cetera, et cetera. So that's just some food for thought as we continue this conversation. But I think this is our last slide, is it? So we just wanted to open it for questions, comments. Again, we have a small enough group to be able to engage in some conversation for the remainder of the time. That's ultimately also what will enrich us as individuals and as a community is if we hear from you.
Deborah, I see your hand is raised. You can go ahead. Thank you.
Thank you. Good morning. So I have been a high school instructor working in career technical education. So I wanted to know if, as part of your work, if you have done outreach to individuals at a younger age, because in the settings where I've worked, we teach in academies to allow the students to have an opportunity to explore a career path prior to attending college or entering an apprenticeship program. That's one question. And my second question is also, I know the EDD doesn't have a good reputation right now, but in the past, I have taken a training from them called Global Career Development Facilitator. And they taught skills to counselors, instructors about using career exploration tools. We asked students about their hobbies and things that they like to do and try to guide them in that manner. Do you all do any research or study with regards to those things? Thank you.
I can start, and then Myriam, you can fill in the gaps. So as far as reaching out to our high school partners, we have a very strong outreach team on our campus, but we are also challenged by the fact that we have approximately 50 feeder schools. We're a large urban community college, and we have many, many different high schools that our students come from. So we're really trying to build our partnership with Pasadena Unified, which does have career academies, in order to tighten those bonds. And we're doing that through dual enrollment and concurrent enrollment opportunities. And also our non-credit program is really building out the high school partnerships. But there is a challenge of scale, right? It's hard to build really close relationships and career conversations with over 50 different high schools just because of limited resources. Our approach to career exploration, we're trying to build it into our own curriculum rather than having an outside curriculum. So we have a summer orientation, or JAM, which we have a very large first year experience that serves just over half of our incoming freshmen, so approximately 3,000 students. And so the summer orientation has elements of career exploration, and then we also have a 3-unit UC and CSU transferable first year seminar class called College One. And that has been completely redesigned with the help of our career counselors to embed very intentional career exploration.
Yeah, I think Sheila, you pretty much hit all the markers. We are also, I mean, thinking through where like I was mentioning, the different touch points that we have. I know our outreach office does go out to middle schools on occasion in our areas, and this does bring up the question of what does our outreach training look like, such that when they do go out to these high schools and middle schools, like what background do they have in terms of being able to even speak to career exploration at those levels? So just a good inquiry to dig into there too, because it's true, we're out there, we're talking to them, and it's an opportunity there as well.
I do want to give a shout out to Javier Carbajal Ramos, who's in the room, who was instrumental in building all of our high school partnerships and also creating that first year experience I just mentioned. So Javi.
But Deborah, I want to go back to a point where you said about the EDD doesn't have a good reputation. Well, yes, we use the UCLA wildcard. I can tell you in many ways how my institution is flawed, and I don't want to just keep reproducing those patterns and sending those messages to you or to students that EDDs are not valuable. I think I just wanted to make sure I said that, because we have that impression that, you know, yes, these places are full of wonderful research, but let's just also understand the UC system as a whole and how messed up it is in many ways. So I just don't want to keep privileging and reproducing those messages that only PhDs are, you know, able to do this research. I think for me, the most valuable thing is the partnership. For instance, like Sheila says, my students, I have students who come from the community college sector. I don't admit students who don't, because I need their help in understanding what it means to be a community college student. If I keep just getting students from Ivy Leagues who are completely disconnected, they don't understand what we're trying to do. So it's more about who's doing the research and why, rather than this prestige, privilege, pedigree, privileging of institutions and degrees that we, I think, have made. So I invite you to just, when you partner with somebody, with a researcher, there's a lot of them. I see a second generation of researchers that is pushing us in so many good ways. So I just wanted to make sure you know that the way I select my students is that they come from the community college sector, because they know what's at stake.
Thank you. I see that Karen Miles has her hand up. Karen, go ahead. Thank you.
Thank you. I was just wondering if you could talk a little bit more about the career communities that you've created, and what does that look like from the student perspective? What kind of framework, what kind of interactions, you know, what does that look like for the student across the time that they're with you?
Thank you, Karen, for that question. So I think, like all of us on our campuses, that work is ongoing. And we were very much building that model when we went into the remote environment. So literally, like the day before we went to the remote environment, we had our giant campus-wide career community kickoff. And the intention of that event was to connect all of our students by career community to a success center on campus. So we partnered with our existing tutoring and success centers in order to identify which ones would represent each of our 6 career communities. And our ongoing plan is to embed our success teams or network of care in each of those career communities, so that students do not have to navigate our campus searching for where is their counselor, where is their success coach, where is their tutor, where is their librarian, so where is their financial aid professional, where is their career advisor or counselor, so that we'll have a single place where students can access the entire support network that they need in order to be successful on our campus. So in the interim, we're continuing to build out that model. We're identifying a space on campus where we can have all of those career community success centers in one location. And we are also working with our fabulous career counselors to identify the moment when it is most appropriate to have students associate with a career community. We know that students are not necessarily fixed in their majors or even in their meta major when they first come to us. So we're leveraging our first year experience and the counselors to have students have a year of guided exploration and then have them transition from first to second year into their career community. And I'm happy to talk more one-on-one, Karen, if you'd like to reach me. I'll put my email in the chat and that goes for everyone.
Thank you. A quick follow-up question. So they're organized around guided pathways or meta majors rather than around student demographic groups then?
Yes, we have 6 career community meta majors.
Karen, I also dropped a PDF file that visualizes, I think, what part of what Sheila just mentioned. And one of the results of our partnership also is the production of research, and we write together. So this is one very good example of a paper that actually Sheila is the author, the lead author in this publication that we were able to do because of, again, this partnership that has everybody there, and there's opportunities for her, for everyone who wants to publish with us. But I think this particular piece is so concrete and so visual that I think it may help some of you in what we share today.
All right, thank you. I don't see any other hands up. Are there any other questions?
I had a question. The 6 career, I'm sorry, I went kind of quick. I wanted to know, is there a link to the 6?
The findings?
Yes.
I don't, I think I can share, we can share the PowerPoint, right, Michelle?
Yeah.
After
yeah.
The PowerPoint will be shared with all of you so that you have these for you as a resource. But again, the same as with Sheila, you can just email us and we can share any information that you feel you need to dig deeper that you may have. So, but a lot of this has been the result of dissertations of my students that again has helped inform the PCC partnership, and that keeps going. I have cycles of students, which is great because then new students come with fresh perspectives, and I'm about to recruit one that I'm like, I know people are going to fight for her because she has all this experience working with high school counselors and is very interested in the labor market stuff. So I hope I get her, but she knows the community college sector so well that she could teach me a lesson anytime.
I have a question if nobody else has any more questions. I was wondering if you could talk a little bit more about the toolkits and what they include.
Well, the toolkits, honestly, we're just imagining them, but for us, we're inventing them. But I think the way we see this, and this was come from Natasha's dissertation more clearly, that in her dissertation, and let me just say this very, very clearly too, and as I think of our partnership and what I do work with other institutions, is we also want to make sure faculty are much more integrated into this work in the sense of understanding their constraints, their struggles. I think we've centered really well on students. But what Natasha reminded me recently on a team meeting that we have from our research team is she's a community college faculty right now. She finished her PhD with us recently, and she's at an institution teaching hundreds of students, just like all of you. And she tells me, Cecilia, you really need to understand how overwhelmed faculty are. We are really being pushed to do so much with so little. And we know what's at stake, and nobody's talking to us in ways that are equivalent to how you're talking about the students. So centering, recentering, and rethinking the role of faculty, and that's where her idea of the toolkit comes very important to me, is that again, we want to equip faculty with different tools for professional development, not just the asset-based, the pedagogies, that's fine, but how are we attending to faculty's needs as well? I don't think we've worked well in that part. And her dissertation, actually, we interview the faculty. We haven't really made sense of that data well enough yet. But what she reminds me constantly is, please pay attention to what you're asking faculty to do. So somehow, in my mind, as we move forward with this work, we gotta balance the both and really engage with faculty in a different way that is not just demanding more, asking them to do more. You need to review your curriculum. You need to add this. You need to do this. I feel that's not going to take us too far. I'm just trying to think how to productively engage with faculty in a way that is responsive to what they are going through, which is a lot. Just this move to online teaching is significant. Me, I'm a faculty member too, I teach, and I know how much more time it takes to prepare classes in this setting. So, but back to your question about the toolkits, for me, it's a set of questions and resources that I can have a very quick handout in a PDF that says, if I want to, if I want to engage with my conversations, with my students in conversations about careers in my class, this is where I can start. This is where I can go. This is what I can think about. And resources, go to places quickly. So I don't have to look for anywhere. I don't have to talk to 70 people. I just have it right in front of me. That for me is the idea of the toolkit.
I see.
Awesome.
Thank you. Do we have any other questions from the participants?
Good morning.
I have a question.
Luz, I think she unmuted. I knew she wanted to jump in and say something.
Good morning. I just had a quick question for Pasadena. You guys did share that you do the summer orientations for incoming students, which I think that's a really great way to engage them. How do you invite everyone who has signed up to attend Pasadena in the fall semester? And then the career orientations, how long are they? Or is there a link where I can check your model?
Myriam, do you want to describe JAM a little bit?
Yeah, so JAM is a 3-day programming that's around, its career is threaded through it in addition to other things that we're introducing students to. It is an open invitation to all 5,000 students who are first year, first time to PCC, first time to college. We don't have the capacity or right now the interest of all 5,000 students to do this, but it is one way that they earn priority registration. It is one of the components for them. So that's the carrot and the driver for a lot of our students engaging in it. But at this point, we had, I think, 2,800 to 2,900 students participate in it last year. It runs through the summer right before school's starting. So the month of July and August. And it's 3 days and they were able to move it completely online. I can connect you, if you send me an email, I'll connect you with the faculty lead that develops and designs the JAM curriculum.
Thank you. Thank you, Myriam.
And I think there was somebody else who wanted to ask something.
Thank you.
Yes. Hi. So my question was, you mentioned the challenges, right, of getting the right folks in the room. So how did you overcome those challenges as a team? And then once you got the stakeholders in the room, how did you prioritize?
Honestly, I think that my strength on campus is I know everybody. I'm a honeybee. And so it's like decades of work getting to know everyone and inserting yourself. But I think a lot of it is leveraging the guided pathways work, and your administrators want this work to happen, right? And so if you are able to have conversations with someone, whether it's a dean, an associate dean, and let them see the value, then they can advocate for you at the higher levels so that the information is being utilized in the campus transformation efforts. So you kind of have to find your champion or your advocate at whatever level who can then kind of move the work forward. I'm also on Academic Senate on the executive team. So I mentioned before leaving the classroom, I was kind of dragged kicking and screaming out of the classroom. But once I saw the equity gap data on our campus, I kind of knew that I would have to take on that campus-wide role in order to help make change. And so I think being part of that Academic Senate executive team for the last 7 years has helped amplify the work too.
One more thing I guess I would add is that it comes in waves, right? I think we have our challenges of, okay, we needed more people at some point because the group was getting smaller. So it's like, to whom do we need to reach out? Then we started going to more of the deans and presenting, and then, you know, higher level. So we try to do as a good team an effort to say, okay, can you go present the research to the deans, or can you go present the research to other places? So we try to make our effort to include more people, and I think it's paying off. And then more people know, and more people know, and it requires a lot of conversations with a lot of people constantly. And that's a lot of hard work, and that's why some of these partnerships sometimes are smaller, less lasting, not as lasting as others, because this is a lot of hard work on both sides of the equation.
Thank you.
I have a question.
Yeah.
Or a comment. You know, I teach music, and I for a while, for a good while now, will try to find areas in my lessons where I can connect a real life career to my lessons. Say, for example, when I start teaching about, we study the music of the Greeks, you know, sing-song style. And then I bring up Pythagoras and the vibrating string. And then I try to sort of bridge the gap between music and real world careers, you know, like in math, how music and mathematics are related. And so just listening to everything that I've heard this morning, it's making me want to try to engage with the, I don't know if it's the Success Center or the career department on campus, so I can try to further that. You know, it's one thing to just introduce an idea, but how do I embed? I'm not sure where I'm going with this, but
No, that's exactly the point, is how could you and that's why the toolkits are important, because maybe we could give to people like you. So instead of you having to go to the career center,
yes,
maybe we could distribute some of these toolkits to say, these are some examples of how you could embed it.
Right. And
types
yes,
of questions that you should be asking yourself when you're thinking of your curriculum, and exercises and activities that you could do, so that again, we minimize that I have to go somewhere to look at it.
Okay. And so, well, what about the idea of embedding some occupational information in the lesson? Let's say if we're talking about the Renaissance and talking about how the economy, you know, is changing, or how, you know, improving, well, you know, or how printing, or, you know, a career in printing. So I'm just thinking about there, I was just looking at my list here of the different styles of music that I'm talking about, whether it's Renaissance or Baroque music. It's like the Baroque period, it was during a time of great invention and this sort of thing. So, and the Renaissance. So I was trying to see, okay, how do I bring a real world career, maybe just one or two, but really bring in maybe an occupational link and make it available right now, since we're teaching online, maybe put it in my module, and to maybe give more information to students about real world careers and opportunity in the, you know, in science, or a business, or psychology, or something like that.
One of your colleagues here in the chat said, Deborah said, healthcare music and healthcare and music therapy? Like how could they think about that? So this is and again, if we link it even to you could help others, that's the entry point. If you in this career, on this path, that can open you music therapy, if you connect to healthcare and find maybe some room there.
Right, and I'm glad
those are the connections that we need, and the type of conversation that you say, okay, maybe that leads to a certain path that is worth exploring, but at least presenting it to them, because they're not hearing about it, they're not making that connection.
Right, and this is what I've done when we were in the brick and mortar room, and say, you know, it was during the Greek, where we were talking about the Greek music, there was a belief that certain scales conjured certain types of behavior, or certain types of sounds or modes would conjure certain types of behavior. And so I use that as a lead into modern psychology, or, you know, behavior. Like someone suggested here about music therapy. So that's where I'm getting at. So I've done it in the brick and mortar classroom, but I just, now doing this meeting today, it's just reminding me, oh, you know what, you can embed something that will give the students more real world information about making the connection from what we're, you know, studying into something actual. That and then maybe try to show the path by getting some occupational material to embed it into my shell. So sorry for being a dead horse.
We have two other questions, but Myriam has to go to another meeting, so I just wanted to say thank you and bye, Myriam.
Thank you, Myriam.
So Jody.
And Lizzie, I think it was next.
Greetings, actually from Washington, D.C. I used to live out in California, so I'm so excited to hear what's happening out in the California community college system. I moved to the American Chemical Society to work on a lot of community college projects. So this work looking at the gateways, looking at the career, meta something, thank you.
Meta majors,
is really exciting. So as the toolkits develop, I hope that folks will think about the disciplinary societies and all the work we've been trying to do to increase the digital resources that can, here again, be used hopefully across the country and in many cases. So thank you for your work. Call on us if you need some help with chemistry gateway courses or careers. I'll put my email in the chat too.
Thank you, Jody. Lizzie.
Hi. Michelle and I have talked about this a lot in the past, that I teach English 1A, and for a long time when I taught the remedial courses too, I've been theming my courses on work, and I've kind of moved back and forth between making the class as much about career and interest exploration from a personal point of view for the students, and more of examining more societally kind of why work looks the way it does today, from looking at economic changes as well as racism and exclusion, and kind of comparing those influences. So it's kind of gone from a more academic societal lens to a more personal lens, and I kind of try to combine both. And I would just love more ideas on how to do that. I've tried a lot of different books about sort of how self-help books, right? Like how to find a career, how to think about it in this economy, and then more philosophical, like what good work is. What does that mean? Is work supposed to fulfill you personally, spiritually? Is it supposed to, is work meaningful because it allows you to make a good living and support your family? So we've looked at a lot of those questions, and I'm always looking to tweak it and make it more relevant to the students. And I guess, one thing that is difficult for me, I guess, is to how to guide the students through an actual kind of career exploration when there's so many different students with so many different interests, and each path leads in a really different direction. I've sometimes had them interview people that could be mentors, things like that. I mean, I think they usually find it useful and interesting, but I'm always looking for ways to make it more useful, more relevant to the current economy, things like that.
Lizzie, I think what's worked for us so far is partnering with our career counselors who are career exploration experts. And so we've kind of taken the first step with putting some of the initial elements of career exploration for our students, like I mentioned, in our summer orientation and then our first year experience course. Our next step is entering kind of a 2-year inquiry process to look at those gatekeeper classes, which include English 1A, our freshman composition, speech, some of our very popular GEs, such as psychology, sociology, and layering it so that students aren't having duplicating efforts in some classes and then gaps in others, so that they, as they progress through their pathway, are having a more intentional career exploration and development experience, and then leveraging what we're learning from the career data inquiry group to infuse through that.
Thank you. And I put in the chat, Cecilia and Sheila, Lizzie's done, she's being very humble, but she's done a lot of amazing stuff. I think she's got so much great stuff to share. That might be a kind of serendipitous partnership. So we are out of time. I did put a Mentimeter survey in the chat for you to just provide Career Ladders Project feedback on this session and other ideas about things you might want to learn. And I want to thank Cecilia and Sheila and Myriam so much for coming today. I know it was kind of a last minute, it's a hard time of year, but you guys are amazing and pulled it together. So thank you so much. We're very grateful for you. And then I want to thank everybody for coming. What's that?
For inviting us. I know everybody, I always ask people, what do you need right now? And they're like, for the year to be over. So thank you for hanging in with us there.
I know.
Let us know if you need anything else, but thank you guys.
Yes, please do reach out if you have further questions, and thank you for your time and attention.
Yeah, thank you all. Have a great Friday.
weekend.
Great weekend.